This is a part 2 of a video I made in which I reviewed community hero ideas from the Deadlock forums, so if you haven't seen part 1, you can check it out after this video. But once again, I will rate them based on two metrics. One is how much I personally like the idea and design of a character, and two is how big is their chance of actually getting added to the game, or at least the chance of devs taking inspirations from those community designs. Let's go.
They do lots of things.
First character today is the BLIGHT by Pinky Bowtie. BLIGHT is a god like the patrons. His main form and full strength has been sealed away for unknown reasons by other gods, probably because he is unhinged. He is currently partaking in the ritual to recover his full strength and get back at the people who wronged him. So it's another nerfed godlike being who is participating in the ritual, similar to Dorman in some ways, since on wiki it says that patrons are trying to convince Dorman to wish for his old powers to come back, but he just doesn't give a shit, and BLIGHT does. The author also mentioned that they envision BLIGHT being linked to Abram's tomb, which I think is very cool and could be something that finally adds more context to this whole mystery. I also really love the bonus included here. BLIGHT has the quirk of not being able to use thanks commands because he is mean, and I think it's very fitting for someone who used to be a literal god to have a high ego and be cocky. The art for this guy is quite insane. It's a Lovecraftian David Jones-esque looking motherfucker in a coat, which is torn on one side where you can fully see his tentacle arm. I love the little details as well, like barnacles on some parts of his outfit, ropes wrapped around him, and those devious red eyes. I think the author perfectly portrayed a deep sea horror character. And I also like how he is not similar to anyone else we have in the game already in terms of appearance. Before we discuss his abilities, let's take a look at the playstyle section the author wrote. His massive size makes him a high health tank but leaves him with very poor movement and range options. His strength revolves around his passive and his ability to somewhat control the battlefield with his acid pulse and ult. His playstyle relies on him disturbing enemies in teamfights. He's not the greatest on his own, so he thrives in chaos and long-lasting fights. At the beginning of a fight, BLIGHT not taken care of can have terrible outcomes in the long run. So that tells us BLIGHT is supposed to be a tanky frontline disruptor who doesn't have access to any big bursts of damage, and I would really love to see a true slow tank character who also can't 1v9, because in the latest batch of characters we got, the closest thing to that archetype was Silver, but she still has really decent movement, some of the best CC in the game with her Bola, and disruption with disarm in her wolf form, on top of high damage output, and I think a character like that just does way too much, which resulted in them nerfing her multiple times. And I personally just want a new character who has a more clear tank identity, and maybe BLIGHT could be someone like that. The author also mentioned that he is supposed to be slow, so I imagined his movement to be similar to Abrams, so slow move speed and slow dash speed. And hear me out, it doesn't make sense to me how all the big characters in Deadlock have 3 stamina. When I think of a character who is supposed to have slow movement, they should have 2 stamina 100%. And yes, I understand that the amount of stamina is a balancing tool, and it's more important to balance the game to be fun, but how the fuck does a big mole have 3 stamina and then a skinny vampire girl has 2?
I guess it's gotta be those damn ties, but come on.
Okay, now let's talk about the actual kit, and his playstyle will make a lot more sense. His gun is Uncle Davy. By the way, Davy Jones' locker is a metaphor for the oceanic abyss, the final resting place of drowned sailors and travelers. So Uncle Davy is a very creative name for his weapon. An old lever action shotgun, powerful up close, less so from afar. BLIGHT found it in the ocean. Since his full power got sealed away, he is forced to use lesser means to fight. Lever action shotgun does make a lot of sense for a character like BLIGHT, but I do wonder how could they make it different to other shotguns that are in the game, especially Abrams' gun, because it's also a slow fire rate weapon with spread shot and you reload a single shell at a time, which is exactly how a lever action shotgun behaves. So I wonder if the Deadlock team would want to make something that's similar to what's already in the game. Ability 1. Thrashing Tendril. BLIGHT uses his tentacle arm and swipes it in a fan shape in front of him, knocking back enemies. The ability can be charged. It gives more range and applies an upward knockback instead of a push. I'm a big fan of abilities that can be casted in 2 different ways, so crowd control tentacle swipe that could either help you boop an annoying Silver jumping your low HP carry, or help you secure a kill by launching someone in the air is great. But that's something a character like Dynamo already does, so imagine laning against those two. That might be a fucking nightmare. Ability 2, Eldritch Bile. Blight extends his tentacle arm and continuously spews acid for a set duration. Acid leaves trails for a short time and damages any enemies who walk on it. You can cancel the ability at any time by pressing space. The ability can be charged. It makes you lob an acid ball that also leaves an acid pool when hitting the ground. But it's hard to hit due to its arch curve throw and somewhat slow projectile. Throwing damaging acid on the ground is a cool concept, but I think it could be the first ability in the game that has a resource meter. So imagine something like Fuel Charge Pharah from Overwatch has. It's not an ability with a cooldown, but a slowly replenishing meter. And if I'm not forgetting anything, there is not a single character in Deadlock who has an ability that functions like that. That would also help to differentiate Eldritch Bile from other similar abilities like Ivy's One, Infernus Flame Dash or Viscous Puddle. Ability 3, Passive, Old One's Presence. As an opponent, when Blight enters around the center of your vision, madness stack starts to build up on you. The closer you are to him, the faster it builds. On average, 1 stack per second. Being far still applies madness, but extremely slowly to the point where it has almost no effect outside of halting the decay of madness stacks. Breaking line of sight slowly reduces madness over time, on average 1 stack removed per second when not looking at him. The more stacks you have, the faster you lose them. Depending on how many madness stacks you have applied on you, when looking at Blight you will get a screen distortion effects, hear noises like whispers, and Blight will get a dark aura. Reaching a certain amount of stacks will debuff you in stages until you lose stacks. 10 stacks, stage 1. Blight can see you through terrain and he heals himself by a portion of any damage he deals to you. 20 stacks, stage 2. Lowers spirit resistance. 30 stacks, stage 3. Lowers movement speed. And 40 stacks, stage 4. Third upgrade of the passive, reduces healing received. This is one of the most fun concepts for a passive ability I've seen on the forums, an ability that applies debuffs through line of sight. To be honest, before Celeste came out, I thought she might have an ability that fucks with your vision, but I was wrong, and so far the only ability that does that is Drifter's ult. So I think it could be cool to have another similar vision disruption option. But considering how valuable your vision is in Deadlock, I am a bit worried that having this as a passive could be too strong. But I guess it depends on how devs implement this screen distortion effect. And if we forget about balance for a second, this ability is genuinely very interesting. Ability 4, Call of the Deep. When in range of an enemy, Blight can hex them and isolate them with him in a parallel dimension for a duel. The arena is the same area where the ult was casted, so it's important as Blight to not cast it where terrain could be working against you. When in this arena, both you and your target are completely invisible to enemies and allies. A dark fog surrounds the arena and leaving it damages you. The effect stops when either you or your target dies, or if the duration of the ability expires. If you succeed in killing your target, you're rewarded with partial healing and your cooldowns being refreshed, except your ult. I really want Deadlock to add a character that forces a 1v1 duel, similar to ISO from Valorant or Legion Commander from Dota, even though I think Legion Commander Ultimate is not very interesting. But this idea for Blight is sick as fuck, and we don't have any character in the game who creates that sort of scenario. I guess you could argue that Kelvin does that, but not really, and I do want to say that the author describes this ability as creating an area where you fight on the map. So it's not like Dorman ult where you get transported to a different place on the map, and I can't imagine how it would work if you get other characters inside your ability. Do you target someone specific and then everyone else gets knocked out of your ultimate range? I'm not really sure, so I think making it a teleport to a separate place would be easier to implement. But I suppose that's up to the devs to figure that out. To sum up, I need a character with an ultimate like this in Deadlock. I think it could be really fucking fun. For my personal rating, I give this concept a 9 out of 10. I love all sorts of Lovecraft-inspired designs, so I'm instantly a big fan. But maybe his first and second ability could be changed a bit to make them feel more unique compared to other characters. And for the chances of dev taking inspirations from Blight, I want to say a 10 out of 10, because I can easily see devs taking at least some parts of his kit or visual design. And considering that it's one of the most popular concepts on the forums, I'm almost certain that devs have already seen it. Okay, since we've just covered a very popular concept, let's take a look at one that's a bit less talked about, but deserves your attention. The Red Baron by Posto. German ace pilot Dragon Hunter. Many years ago, an astral gate opened somewhere in the Alps. Its actual location remained unknown, but one thing that was for certain is that periodically dragons would come out of it and attack the villages and towns of southern Germany. In order to protect his people, Kaiser Wilhelm created a new military unit.
Drachenkampfverband?
A unit of aerial combat-trained soldiers that would leap in the sky from airships equipped of nothing but a soul-fed motor and a gun. Out of all those brave soldiers, one stood out for his impressive achievements in defeating dragons: Manfred von Richthofen. He got a nickname the Red Baron and quickly became internationally famous. And now, years later, the son of Manfred, Manfred Jr., who took over the title of the Red Baron, is searching for a way to live up to his father's reputation. But since dragon attacks got fewer, he decided to take a part in the ritual that's happening in New York, to potentially save the glory of his family title. Manfred von Richthofen is actually a real person. He was a German fighter pilot with the German Air Force during World War I. He is considered the ace of aces of the war, being officially credited with 80 air combat victories. So this character is a direct reference to that person. After reading this character backstory, I imagine Red Baron to be a bit cocky and very confident in his skills, and I can also see him being very proud of his family's name, so him and Apollo could either be best friends or develop some heated rivalry. As you could probably guess, the Red Baron is a flyer type character, and I do believe that the author of this concept came up with more interesting ways to implement flying abilities, compared to characters like Grey Talon or Vindicta, who just float in the air and hold left click. And for that reason, I actually want to start with his passive ability, Owner of the Sky. When holding space while in the air, glide slowly until you hit the ground. Gliding in the air counts as the same as gliding on the ground, so gain infinite ammo while doing so. Based on his appearance, this ability will clearly look like flying with a wingsuit, so in the air, this character will literally turn into strike aircraft. The author of this post also didn't specify what his gun looks like, and I think it would be cool to give him 2 automatic weapons on his shoulders, so that he doesn't have to use his hands while gliding in the air. Well, if this character can glide in the air, he needs a tool to get him into the air, which is his first ability, Propeller Launch. Release an energy pulse from your propeller that launches you high in the direction you are looking. Do damage to an enemy if your body connects with them, but lose any air control you gain from this ability. So here is his main movement ability. It helps him gain height and also can be used to launch yourself into someone's face. I guess the main way to use this ability is flying in the air and then gliding on someone while shooting them. And since it has charges, you can kill confirm with your ability as well. I can already see people build Surge of Power on him and debuting it with his propeller launch to gain extra fire rate in the air, and then buying Recharging Rush to get additional charges for his wand to make it easier chasing enemies. And I think the fact that I can already think of what items you can build on a character is a sign of a well put together kit. The second ability is Flare Shot. Bring out a single shot flare gun that shoots a slow projectile where you are aiming. You cannot shoot your gun until the flare has been fired. The flare has a radius of effect where it detects enemies on the map while traveling, and it explodes on contact, damaging nearby enemies. If you watched my previous video, you know I already covered a character who uses a flare gun, but Wickerman had it as his primary fire, which I found to be a bit problematic to balance. Red Baron, however, has it as one of his skills, and it matches with his character idea quite well. So I like this one a lot, especially the detection idea. He could sort of be a recon type character and give his teammates additional info. And now Red Baron's ultimate, Bombing Run. Take flight carrying with you 3 small bombs that deal spirit damage and knock down enemies who would happen to be in the air. I love this idea. It once again matches with his pilot identity, and the fact that it counters other flyers is really cool. It's like he is a proper duelist in the air, and this is another ability that helps him get in the air, by the way. I honestly did not expect this character to be this cool, but he ended up being one of my favorites and could potentially become the first proper flying character. So fuck it, 10 out of 10. I did have thoughts that maybe fighting him could be quite annoying, but if they give him something like negative bullet resists in the start or make his HP scaling bad, he could absolutely be balanced. As for his chances of getting into the game, I'd say 6 out of 10, because I think there is a chance devs might just find adding a character like that to be too problematic. And I don't know if a character who can be that mobile in the air aligns with their balancing philosophy. But personally, I really hope that the Red Baron will see the light of day. You know, at this point, having a Wukong-inspired character is a staple of MOBA games. I have no idea how that became a tradition, but hey, I love it and I'm here for it. So of course, people on the forums have already come up with multiple concepts for a Monkey King type character. But before we get to the character I will talk about, I want to shout out this amazing Wukong concept by Toasty Ghosty. It's a great design and I will leave a link to it in the description if you want to take a look at it yourself. And the reason I decided to review Sunnie by Dragon Roll Z is because it's actually not a Monkey King, it's a Monkey Queen. And I just thought that making a woman Wukong is an interesting take on that character and wanted to cover it specifically. First of all, let's look at the lore. A troublemaking deity and a powerful one at that. Wherever Sunnie went, mayhem seemed to follow. She made quick work of anyone who looked down upon her, from demons to even other deities. So when she was tricked into the servitude of mere humans, she was furious and humiliated. For centuries, she served members of the Jade Palace, a criminal syndicate in China, doing their dirty work and picking off anyone who dared step in their path. When she caught word of an old friend in the West, Sunnie knew this was her ticket to freedom. With the promise to make the Jade Palace even more powerful, she was brought to America to stay true to her word. Her backstory is a bit vague and leaves some blank spaces, like who is she exactly? Is she a goddess who came to the human world through astral gates similar to BLIGHT? Was she also insanely powerful but lost her powers? How exactly was she tricked to serve humans? I also really like this interaction the author wrote for her with Dorman. Look at us, where did things go so wrong? I have no idea what you're referring to. We're both under the control of humans. I find servitude to be humbling and enjoyable at times. Keyword at times. Without pain, there is nothing to look forward to. You awful people should know that best, Sunnie. There are a lot of things to speculate on, but let's take a moment to appreciate this fucking art. Holy shit, she already looks like a completed design that could be added to the game. I love this more traditional outfit with a shirt and a tie underneath it. It keeps the whole Sun Wukong aesthetic but makes it a bit more modern, and also aligns with the fact she's working for a criminal organization. Her weapon is also quite creative. She plucks hairs from her head and throws them in a rapid shotgun spread, similar to Yamato. And you might think it's weird she doesn't use her staff as a weapon, but obviously every character needs a ranged left click. Even Apollo shoots projectiles with his sword, and her staff is used for the melee attacks and abilities. So let's take a look at them. Ability 1, Staff Strike. Enlarge your staff and smash it down in an arc forward. Airborne enemies are sent downwards. Each successful hit temporarily increases melee damage and melee hitbox. This ability is very similar to Monkey King from Dota, but enlarging the staff is kind of a staple for Wukong, so of course I'm happy to have an ability like that. The more interesting part in my opinion is how it interacts with your melee, because to be honest, we do not have enough characters in the game who have abilities changing the behavior of their melee hits. It's basically just Venator, Billy and I guess Infernus, since he can proc Afterburn with melee attacks. But that's a recent change. So Sunnie having a more powerful melee using her staff is a cool idea. Ability 2, Cloudwalker. Leap forward and deal damage in an area where you land. Enemy weapon accuracy is briefly decreased on hit. Passive, Triple Jump. The triple jump passive is my favorite part of this. It's kind of like a built-in stamina mastery, which is a good fit for an agile monkey. The accuracy decrease is quite interesting too. If I'm not forgetting anything, that would be a new type of debuff, and it might be a cool ability to counter annoying M1 carries like Haze or Venator. Earthly Transformation is the third ability. Take on the form of an ally-friendly trooper or object, ? Gain resistances when the form is broken. Taking enough damage using abilities, weapon attacks, or being immobilized/stunned by any means breaks the disguise. You can still use active items and melee attacks when disguised as an ally. Pressing 3 again breaks the form prematurely. Of course, there can't be a Wukong character without some sort of mischief, so I'm a fan of that ability. Imagine seeing Ram walking in your jungle, looking at his soul count and thinking you're about to get an easy kill since he is behind you, and then he quickly turns into Sunnie with a 10k lead who just pounds you instantly. I am also curious how it would work with turning into objects. My first thought was transforming into boxes and golden statues, which could be insane if you hide somewhere and then parry the person trying to melee the box. So players who don't remember the position of each golden statue and each box could be punished for it. However, the higher you climb on the ladder, the more useless this ability will probably be, aside from resistances of course. But the trolling potential is fucking insane, and I would love to see some funny clips with that character. Ability 4, the ultimate, Bian. if I pronounced that right. Throw down hair in an area and create duplicates of yourself that chase targets and root them down, dealing damage over time when caught. So this ability would probably work similar to Ghoul's grave summons, NPCs automatically charging at players until they get in contact. This is another iconic ability Wukong uses, which is cool, but I think I just feel like her kit here is a bit underwhelming. As I said, Wukong in MOBAs has been done many times before, so I think if Deadlock wanted to add a character like that, they have to go a little bit more experimental with abilities, and somehow make her kit unique to Deadlock only. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate those abilities, I think some of the ideas are quite cool, but there has to be something that significantly separates this character from the rest in my opinion. That said, I absolutely loved reading her backstory and I'm also a huge fan of this design, so she gets an 8 out of 10 from me. The chances of Sunnie getting added, 9 out of 10, I think it's almost guaranteed Valve will do the iconic monkey character, especially considering that gods exist in the world of Deadlock, and I really hope they take some inspo from Dragon Roll Z's design. American culture is pretty strange, isn't it? I'm not interested in small talk with you. It's a lot colder than I imagined it would be. Are you listening to me? Don't even get me started on the food. I'm craving some Tsongyou Bing, but I just can't find anything. Next hero is the Mothman by Iska Whiskers. Mothman is actually a creature from American folklore, who was mentioned for the first time in 1966, and Deadlock is set around those times, so this cryptid creature could easily become a character in the game. And there are actually a bunch of other designs for a Mothman character. Shout out to this design, Lumen by Tootsnoot, and this concept by Press Nifty. Those are quite cool, but I just really enjoy this friendly looking fella. The Mothman is the local hero of a small town somewhere in the southwestern United States. Comes to New York in an effort to save their hometown from an impending calamity. Soft-spoken, hospitable, and shockingly down to earth despite their status as a cryptid, but entirely unafraid to bust some skulls. With so much of America's urban and rural landscapes alike rife with creatures and matters of the occult, who better do a little vigilante work than someone who's a little occult themselves? A friendly neighborhood Mothman. I really like this idea of a cryptid who actually turned out to be a cutie patootie hero and now wants to defend their small town. As a weapon, Mothman uses a double-barrel shotgun, which has 4 shots to start with. Obviously, a double-barrel shotgun normally doesn't have a lot of ammo, but the author explained that it was actually enchanted to hold more bullets. The name is also Southern Hospitality. Now the ability number 1, Pitchfork. The Mothman thrusts forth their trusty pitchfork, traveling a short distance, about 10 meters, and dealing melee damage in a narrow line. Enemies that are mid-air are pulled down. Mothman that uses pitchfork as a weapon is quite funny, and it deals melee damage, which could be a cool synergy. And I also noticed more and more heroes in Deadlock get weapon damage on abilities, which in my opinion makes gun characters more fun to play. Fly fishing. The Mothman throws out a fishing hook, pulling the first character it hits a short distance, 10 meters. Middle click instead throws out a rock that pushes enemies instead. Fly fishing can be used on allies. Okay, so it's basically a Bebop hook, just doesn't hook you across the entire map. Considering how problematic Bebop is to balance in this game, we definitely don't want another hook hero, but that seems more like a slight displacement tool, which is already way better than whatever bullshit Bebop has.
A little trouble never hurt anyone.
And it synergizes well with a double-barrel shotgun. I also think it should work more like a vortex web and not like a complete stun. The alternative casting is meant to push enemies away from you, which is another thing that separates it from the Bebop hook and is a very cool option to defend your teammates, because you probably don't want to push enemies away from your close-range weapon most of the time. The passive ability is Cryptid Crawler. The Mothman can air jump or air dash an additional time before landing and gets 10% extra air jump / dash distance. This passive is kind of like a built-in stamina mastery, sort of like Sunnie's passive ability. This is supposed to enhance their assassin playstyle, and I mean, it's a Mothman, it should have some sort of enhanced movement, but let's not make another Celeste, please. This character movement is still a bit absurd to me, especially before all the nerfs, so I don't know how strong this passive could be for a character with a shotgun who could probably deal large damage up close, but it could be balanced if they made them squishy. The ultimate ability, Needle in the Haystack. Mothman tosses a bewitched hay bale, that steadily grows in size the further it travels, dealing spirit damage based on its size and applying knock-up to enemies. Hitting a wall causes the hay bale to explode for extra damage, stunning enemies it hits instead. The hay bale can be detonated early with melee, pitchfork, fly fishing or another hay bale. Detonates for 2x the size of the hay bale. Hay bale is this thing, if you are wondering, so you basically roll it across the map. I also think it would be really funny if it took enemies with it, but that's probably too strong. The most interesting part is the fact you can detonate it early with the melee. It behaves quite similar to Holiday's barrels actually, and I don't mind that at all. I think it could work as a quick burst option. You also stun enemies for a second, so you can easily hit a free shotgun shot on them right after you detonate your hay bale. I think it has a lot of potential and fits the whole country aesthetic Mothman has. Overall, this concept is cool as fuck. Some abilities might be quite strong, but it never stopped them when they released the previous batch of characters, so whatever. I personally rated a 9 out of 10. The design is very cute and the lore is quite surprising for a character who is supposed to be feared by others. Very unique take on that character. As for their chances of getting into the game, I'd say 9 out of 10. You might think this character doesn't really fit the aesthetic of Deadlock, but considering how popular Ram has been since his release, I can see them making another mascot type character. And it also seems the community really likes the Mothman concept. That is it for the video. Unfortunately, I was able to only cover 4 characters in this one and not 5 like in the part 1, but when I figured out how long this video will probably be, I kind of freaked out. I think I was yapping way too much today. But if you guys enjoyed this video format, once again, I'm down to make another part, so let me know in the comments what characters you might want to see me cover. I probably won't be able to cover every single one, but I'll at least take a look. Thank you for watching, bye bye.